Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, November 6th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. McKowen and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that are located in the upper left-hand corner, they say Start Here. It'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and as a tool to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also download from that webpage a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, and if you choose to do that, before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which are wonderful ways to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd greatly appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. And you can email Jeanie at jeanie@yagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you, we'll address it on the internet show. And then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. We greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that because it makes it so much easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention is to be of service. And if you're able to join us, we'd be happy to have you join us live weekdays from 11 a.m. till noon Central Time. And the way to do that is through Zoom, zoom.us. And once you open a browser window, you can type in the meeting ID number 853-2357-4173. 853-2357-4173. You can also go to mindshiftersacademy.org website, and there's a special page dedicated to that Zoom ID and this meeting time. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that. So let us know how these things are landing for you and how we can be of service. I'm here with you today right after a lovely interview with Suzanne Roberts. And Suzanne Roberts is the author of the book titled It's Deeper Than That, Pathway to a Vibrant, Purposeful, and Liberated Life. And she has a documentary by the same title, and her book is out, and I'm in the middle of reading it, and thrilled to be able to offer that as a resource because it is so similar. And one of the things I said to her at the end of our interview, when it was not being recorded anymore, was that I was delighted by the fact that while we talked about all the same things we talk about on this show and in the Mind Shifter support groups and what Dr. Michael Ryce talks about in his work, all the same stuff, and yet the word God and the word Jesus or Yeshua was never once mentioned. But it's all there as energy that's connected to its source, as all energy connected to everything else, as analogies to the energy that feeds the system, and it's got to have a power source and a battery that has to have a positive and a negative and a ground, and all of the same kinds of things that Dr. Michael Ryce talks about and Dale Allen Hoffman talks about and Guy Finley talks about. And it's all done without the mention of God or Yeshua as words, but the same essence is there, right? The source energy, the connection of all things. So it was a lovely conversation. I look forward to being able to share that. And I recommend the book. Anybody who's interested to get a slightly different perspective on all the same stuff we talk about. And in her book, she gives a very, very useful description of how she's used what she's learned in the years over decades of work and search, how she's used it to help heal her trauma. And this book and its reading, just at every stage of the reading, I'm thinking about Jeanie Ryce and her powerful book and her willingness to share with deep honesty, and Laura McKowen and her powerful book, We Are the Luckiest, and how deeply she goes into the honesty there, which, within the cultural context is revealing things that are the source of tremendous shame and grief and horror, but sharing it openly, wide open, in perfect safety. And that's the kind of thing that Suzanne Roberts does with her book. It's deeper than that. So,
Dr. Tim?
Go right ahead, Susan.
I have a question about what you just said. I think it's fantastic if we can find our way to healing, true healing of upset, find our way to forgiving in the way that Michael teaches it via the Aramaic forgiveness. But I think because Michael realized in his studies of Aramaic that Jesus had meant a kind of forgiveness that many of our religious institutions don't particularly teach. He felt that he had to have Jesus in there because Jesus was the author of the idea. But what you're saying with Suzanne, what's her last name?
Roberts.
Okay, Suzanne Roberts' book is that this concept is available anyway. I think Michael would say that too, but he
so not so much, but it's a point of contention for whoever wants to make it a point of contention. The fact of the matter is that we're all just using words, and people have talked about, Yeshua, and he's the author of this work, and yet in Yeshua's own words, as they come through, if you look for it in the scriptures, it's there. You really have to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear that. But clearly, in the Way of Mastery and other books that have been, quote, channeled with him, he talks about how, listen, if I come in my own name, I'm a false prophet. I had to go and study. I had to sit at the feet of masters. And yes, they recognized that something different was going on inside of me, but, at every level, when I go back to whether I'm reading things from Timothy Freak and Peter Gandy, or I'm reading things from the Way of Mastery or Course in Miracles, it's woven through there that says, look, why do you call me good? I'm not good. The only thing that's good is the good of life itself. So there are people who want to say Jesus was the author of this, but that's their ideas about this. There are other people who recognize that these concepts, this, like what Joseph S. Benner is talking about in his book, The Impersonal Life, it isn't tied to any one spark of the divine mind, and we're all connected. So any level of putting Yeshua up there as the great teacher, or Guy Finley up there as a great teacher, or Michael Ryce as a great teacher, is an error in thought, what Michael Ryce would call a thought disorder.
Mm. Well, so going to the other side of it, the fact that we are globally much more integrated cultures connecting with one another, intermingling, intermarrying, interdialoguing, so much more than happened way back, that this is, I think it's a wonderful way to go. It doesn't remove anything. It sort of invites all cultures to participate, and they do anyway. But anyway, so it's very exciting to hear about this book. So that's what I wanted to say. So
yeah, I'm thoroughly pleased. I was holding off mentioning it to anybody because I wanted to see the intro call had all these little brain cells firing for me about the connections and the similarities in the work. And now that I've had the hour-long conversation with her, it's just locked it in. My perceptions were accurate. It's going to be it's already a lovely book and the documentary. And she's suggesting, that she wants to go in person to places where they want to show her documentary and then lead the attendees into an experience of this connected energy, so that we're, with tremendous diversity in the audience, with the recognition of each of us as these individual sparks, but connected in the one process of energetic awareness or conscience, or so. And
that's exciting. Peacemaking.
It is a peacemaking at a fundamental level, at a radical level.
That's wonderful. Okay. What's the title of the book again?
The title of the book is It's Deeper Than That.
Yeah, you said that twice. Yeah.
Well, and the title came from the fact that she had neck pain. And I would imagine she was somewhere in her 20s. And she was looking for some energy healing or something that might help with her neck pain. And when she showed up, she traveled someplace to meet this person who ostensibly had something that could help. And when she showed up, she said, well, can what you're about to offer me, help with my neck pain? And his response was, it's deeper than that.
Oh.
And that was 40 or 50 years ago. And her life's work has revolved around this polarity system or therapy or practice that she learned that day, which is rooted in the work that was done many decades ago. I'm trying to look for the name of the gentleman that she, I'll just give you from the prologue. She quotes Kabir, Kabir, as saying, quote, if you want the truth, I will tell you the truth. Listen to the secret sound, the real sound which is inside you. And then she writes, there is a hidden treasure inside you, invisible to your eyes. This treasure may be unknown to you now, yet it is knowable within. It is the very essence of your being, a gift given from the source of life for all of creation. Your deepest self resides inside you, awaiting you. I'm here to tell you that the gift of your life has already been given to you. You don't have to earn it or prove your worth. you get to awaken to that which is waiting for you inside of you. Mm-hmm. Your birthright is your unapologetic radiance. This is what Polarity teaches. I hope you can hear some of the similarities to the way Michael Ryce talks about this.
Tim, is this Journey's Dream thing or On Your Mind?
Well, I interviewed her for the On Your Mind podcast.
Okay.
It's quite likely to branch out from there into, sharing with her the Mind Shifters Radio and maybe bringing her into the Chicago area for one of these live experiences, etc. So she says, I began studying polarity therapy when I was 20 years old, and I've been an ardent student and practitioner ever since. Wow. When I was first exploring polarity therapy, I was curious about the inception of this methodology and the body of work that I sought to learn more about its founder, Dr. Randolph Stone. Stone was born in Austria in February of 1890. He emigrated to the United States in 1903. He studied osteopathy, naturopathy, and chiropractic. He earned degrees in all three areas. An avid lover of nature and the natural world, he preferred drugless and natural approaches to health and healing. During one of his many trips to India, he came across Ayurvedic medicine. Having studied Chinese medicine, yoga, and reflexology, Stone eventually synthesized his learnings and developed polarity therapy, an energetic approach to health and healing. His philosophy can be taken from this one passage from his book, Health Building. Quote, health and happiness do not depend on the body, but on the energies that run it, that flow through it and animate it. If we want health, we must learn to govern and direct those energies from the center outward as a normal expression of life and motion, with a reverent attitude towards life's sacredness as the Creator's gift and we as its reward. I hope you can see the similarity between that and what we're learning, questioning, experiencing for ourselves in this work. Stone became concerned that the allopathic medical system, or Western medicine, was getting away from its symbol. The symbol of the caduceus was a dual current represented by snakes operating through a central core. Stone saw the medical world leaving this understanding behind with many advances in technology and specialization. This is back in the early 1900s. He saw that happening. And he felt an urgent need for the medical world to remember the vital life energy as a resource for health and healing. So anyway. Yeah, the great minds have been stumbling across these truths for thousands of years. And what was one of the delightful things about reading the book by Suzanne Roberts is that she's had the direct experience of getting the mind out of the way, not really so much controlling it, but just not letting it hold the meaning for me that I used to give it. And then when I have a different conscious relationship with the thoughts and the part of my mind that wants to think its way through to answers, it opens me to experiences I can't get any other way. And experiences that go beyond the words, and they go beyond the labels and the judgments. So, Don, are you unmuted intentionally? That's a grunt I'll take as a negative. Negatory there, good buddy. So we have plenty of time for comments, questions, answers, testimonials. I had not intended to get into the conversation about pedestal and people on a pedestal, even putting God or Jesus on a pedestal. It's such an interesting thing for me from the way I've been trained and the way the words have been loaded with meanings in my mind. But the idea of being able to hold something as sacred or have reverence for it without feeling like it's above me, right? To be able to have that awareness and have the awareness of connection and sameness. Yeah, the words fail, right? The words fail. Go ahead, Susan.
Just thank you for that. Just to keep reinforcing that there is no separation. We are all it. And Jesus came as a brother to show us that. It's really landing what you're saying this morning. For me, very important. And the Course in Miracles, as you were speaking, I was being taken back to page 41 of the Course in Miracles, where it talks about knowledge. So, and I just want to read that because it just feels so fitting. So, knowledge is the result of revelation and induces only thought. Even in most spiritualized form, perception involves the body. Knowledge comes from the altar within and is timeless because it is certain. To perceive the truth is not the same as to know it. And right perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to its altar, to his altar, which is established in his sons.
So there's that whole problem that Michael encounters with the Course in Miracles and the regulatory speech. So, it slips a little word in there like right, R-I-G-H-T, right in front of the word perception, right?
Yeah.
Not too long before that, it was talking about perception's a problem. And so, as Michael lays out so well in the talks he's given around the Course in Miracles and the lesson titled, What is the World? He tries to help people have this little template they can use to go look at the Course in Miracles. It says, look, tune your awareness to the idea that the Course in Miracles is referring to at least two different kinds of worlds. The world that the Creator created, and you might assign that a capital W, meaning the actual world, and then the world that each of us creates within our minds that's driven by perception, that's driven from the past, it's driven by our trauma energies, etc. The language we were taught, all of these filters that the stimuli have to come through to land in us to be labeled a certain way. So that process of perception creates the lowercase w world. And if you tune into Michael's lectures on that and just think of it not as he's got the right answer, but here's a template I can start using as I read and try to do the exercises that the Course in Miracles would suggest for me. Can I do it through that perceptual filter? Can I think of it in terms of whatever perception I create that results in some pain or fear or sadness in me is in error?
Mm-hmm.
Then I can just start questioning. It's like with the Course in Miracles lesson, A New Beginning. I may not be able to say, oh, I screwed it all up or I'm horribly wrong, but I can at least recognize, gee, I don't like how this feels. I hope there's a different way to look at this. I can ask to be taught. And when I do that, it's like breaking out of the prison that my mind creates.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you're just today speaking about Suzanne Roberts, because it's beyond words. Like we're trying to lock, Jesus into it's not it's the energy, of what God is, and we're all it. It's within inside our own altar. That's the connection. It's going inwards, and what you're helping also for us to see, and bringing that forward. Anytime we put somebody else on a pedestal, we're looking out there.
Yeah, and then we're comparing our thoughts about us to our thoughts about them.
Yeah.
And we're not in direct awareness of either our true nature or their true nature.
Yeah, and we're in perception. We're in perception in that moment, and based on the reading, that knowledge is beyond perception. And today's idea for me is I trust my brothers who are one with me. They are. It's stepping away from perception
And
to
so
the knowing.
Look at the difficulty here. As I'm listening to you, I'm trying to say, how do we say that different? How is it more accurate? And then my mind wants to say, well, if the Course in Miracles says right perception at one point, that must mean that it would be more accurate to say false perception for every other place where it just says perception, or it says things like, perception was created as an attack on God. Right? Well, it must be false perception is created if there's such a thing as right perception. But then look at all of the emotional baggage we have with the word false versus right. So, where can we go in this maze that will help us find the way? There is no way. It's an endless cycle of thoughts. This is why David Bohm and Krishnamurti talked about sustained incoherence, or the problem of creating our pain with our thoughts and then deciding we'll think more thoughts to end the pain. It's not the way out.
Yeah, and even for me, right perception, when I read that, I didn't perceive it as right or wrong. I'm perceiving it being in the right brain, and the right side of the brain. Just because, so it's all, again,
Yes, we all have we have different meanings for the words. And so the trick is, how about we find a way to move past the words?
That's it.
And it's bizarre for somebody who's been on an internet show 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for almost 15 years, talking and talking and talking and talking, saying, the words aren't important.
And they're not.
What the heck are you doing here then? Right? Why are you talking so much?
But it's the energy you're evoking, the energy that gets evoked too, and it's expanding people's perception to perceive differently.
I actually had the same process happen, and I sent an email to somebody, and because this is a person who from time to time sends me a message that says, there aren't any words for how grateful I am, blah, blah, blah. And so I decided, well, you know what? The fact is, that happens on my end. I generate the gratitude about knowing that person. So I decided the next thing you know, I'd written like a page and a half right after I said there aren't any words for how grateful I am. Okay, so then what are you doing using all these words? That's where the breath work, that's where the internal experience, that's where the somatic, the body-focused energy work comes in. That's where, like I mentioned it before earlier this week, I think that We Can Do Hard Things podcast came out, and Amanda was talking about how her therapist keeps coaching her to stop the words, stop talking about what's going on, and locate what she's feeling physically in her body at the time. And then she hates it when that happens, but she realizes that what's resulted from that practice is that she's discovered that these energies we call emotions will arise in her and move through her in about 90 seconds if she just sits with them. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? That she watches her thoughts about them but doesn't chase them, doesn't believe them, doesn't engage them in a debate in her own mind. She just recognizes that any thought she has, any word she wants to apply to this awareness of energy moving through her is not the same thing as it. And so just like a baby, a really healthy baby, might be born, through the birth canal, wiped off a little bit and placed on the mother's chest, it will start rooting around to try to find the nipple, latch on and start feeding. It wasn't taught how to do that. There's this innate wisdom within the system that's going to use these energies. It's going to, experience them and not be damaged by them the vast majority of the time. Can we move into that position where we're just watching those energies instead of judging them, labeling, and thinking we have to do something with them? That's what happens when they're doing the research that says these emotions resolve in 90 seconds. They only resolve if the person doesn't go get stuck in thought and keep banging the gong that sets up the energy wave that gets experienced as this emotion.
Yeah. Experiencing that right now these days, and the energy in the body, of course, there's no language. I just can experience it as a sensation, different types of sensation, and just sitting with it. That's new without, what the hell does that mean, and what's going on there, and I want blah, 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 all the storyline that I tried to make, all the meaning making, and now just allowing it to be with it and be a safe witness for whatever's arising in the body. Yeah, my body's appreciating that, that's for sure. And, in the Course in Miracles says the body's a learning device.
Communication device in the way of mastery. A very temporary communication device.
Yes.
Now, the temporary part doesn't fit with Michael Rice's ideas on this and teachings, but it doesn't ruin the fact that other parts of the teaching are the same. Your true nature is this energy of creation. Your true nature is this energy flowing through you that animates you and everyone and everything you see. And you might call it love. You might call it energy. You might call it life. You might call it light.
Yeah. And Susan's book, obviously, I look forward to reading it because it's just, it sounds like she's had a direct experience, as you said, and actually been in the experience of that and being able to hold that so others can experience it as well.
Well,
Thank you.
and she has spent her life and career not being quite ready to share her story, which has a really deep trauma at a very young age. And this year, she was ready, or in the few years leading up to this, she was ready, and her book has been published this year. So, again, it's one of those stories that so resonates with me because it's not some theoretical pie-in-the-sky, layers upon layers of complexity theory. It's somebody who's had some really deep trauma, and they've been intelligent, and they've been sensitive, and they've been committed to growth and healing and working on it, and then they're sharing what they've discovered through the actual, living life in the trenches kind of thing.
Yeah, I look forward to, thanks for sharing. I really look forward to reading your book. Thank you.
You are most welcome and deserving. So, as usual, I'll just remind people that we're open to comments and questions, even if I seem to be in the middle of something or reading. Did somebody just unmute?
Yes.
Celinda, welcome.
Could I, good morning. I would love to just reshare one definition of no that has been really helpful for me. And it's the old Hebrew understanding of knowledge, which was to have an experiential a basis. In other words, in the sexual arena, to know someone was to have intercourse with them, as I said about Joseph and Mary in the Bible, Protestant Bible. Sorry about that. And then, and for me, that means a fully embodied experience of head, mind, heart, and body, and an aware experience. And so that helps too. And I'm highly verbal because I love to share. And I'm beginning to realize that there are many people, including my husband, who are not highly verbal and get very stressed when they have to hear that much babble coming out of my mouth, which seems very significant to me. But I just wanted to share that because it's been very helpful for me to make that distinction between what it means to know and what it means to simply get information or be informed in the head only. So I thought I'd share that in case it was helpful for anyone as another way of looking at what know means. And I love the revelation part too. It's just a mystery for me, Tim, Dr. Tim.
Well, good. If you can keep it in that mystery state and work at becoming more and more comfortable with staying in the questioning rather than the knowing, that's what these teachings are inviting us to. So do that and see what happens.
Yes, and you're bringing up Rilke, and staying in the question and asking the question has been one of the biggest helps for me, and it's one of my little primary tools to help me get back into my sane brain, and I thank you for that, really, very much so. Oh, and I was reading Positive Intelligence again last night, and I went back to the saboteurs, and oh my goodness, I think I have every one, and maybe not one, not the overachiever, but I'm not even sure about that. And so it's sort of like, where do I begin when I have so many saboteurs? So I'm making a little list of all of them so I can remember, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Where to begin is right with whatever one is up in the moment. That's where you begin.
Right, and identifying it, realizing, oh, that's what this is, and that's what that is. Yeah. And I like to think of my hyper-vigilant one or my judger as the warmonger. Either one of those would work for a warmonger. So that's just my little nickname for it.
I'm glad you're finding that book useful. I was literally, I didn't mention it during the interview, but I had that book very strongly resonated several times as I was talking to Suzanne Roberts about her book. It's deeper than that, and it's one of the resources I'll share with her just so that she can join in on the fun of seeing the similarities across different schools of thought.
And it's amazing that I bought that book for Larry, and because it was more business oriented, and I'm not interested in business. It hasn't ever sung to me. And so, and to find the areas of connection for me that's outside of my usual language box was really a delight. It wasn't even kind of, it was a delight. So I'll share that with you.
Yeah, you're one of the many people I thought could benefit from it because you spend so much of your time and energy in the intellectual, and as you say, the babbling about it, or all the different words about it. And his book says, cut it out. See it as a trap. I mean, it just as easily be the way of mastery saying, the intellect was never designed to be your master. In this case, the intellect would be the parallel to the saboteurs. And to draw the parallel further with Shirzad Shamin's book, Positive Intelligence, the positive side of things for his work is called the sage. And for these other spiritual teachings, it would be your soul, your higher self, your connection to wisdom and God, the Holy Spirit, whatever. It's all the same stuff with different words. And so anybody that I work with who has a pretty high intellect and keeps getting stuck in their emotional and spiritual work, my biggest challenge is to get them to quit listening to their thoughts, to understand that anytime I'm having a thought that's accompanied by a discomfort or a negative emotional state, I can instantly know three things. That thought is a lie or based in a falsehood. It's an old tape playing. It's not about the present moment experience. It's from the past. I'm keeping it alive by banging the gong about it, by pouring my mind energy into the thoughts about it. And the third thing I can know is that if I sit here and spin in negative thought, if I decide to speak or take an action from that negative thought or negative emotional energy, I'm just going to make my life worse, not better. And this realization cuts across Course in Miracles, Way of Mastery, Guy Finley's work, Michael's work, etc.
The other thing that really resonated for me was when Shazad said, the left brain is the survival brain. I mean, he just, I thought it was like the Way of Mastery or Michael's work or your work. I thought, oh, bingo, there's got to be something good in this book. I'll plow through it a little more.
Yeah, and the testimonial I give for the book is short and sweet. When I finished reading it and got home, I ordered a copy for each of my sons and sent it to them. And I don't know how to give any better testimonial than that.
One of the things that I'm beginning to really honor my intellect for is before I was a teacher, I had to be right. It was the go motto, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. I mean, that was me. And controlling and all of those situations. And the way I was taught was to use the intellect for whatever control I was trying to control, myself, someone else, situation. But one of the things that has been growing in me so much, and I really think I had a talent for it from the beginning because I'm very yin-oriented, and so is my heart. I've really come from the heart. And so the heart balancing out the head is really helpful for me. And now I'm working with the embodied child that doesn't know. And I just want to, and that's where your reparenting the child comes in for me. And it reminds me of TA, transactional analysis. I just, the mature adult rather than the critical adult. And the same for the parent. And I just like all that. It's all kind of weaving together into one beautiful garment. And I'm pleased.
All right. Well, is there anything else we can do to support you today?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. I have, my little babble motor has run down.
Okay. Lovely. I will return to the reading of Guy Finley's book titled The Book of One Love, One Life, One Journey with Dr. Ellen Dickstein. The next section of the 6th chapter is titled Love's Odyssey, a journey to conscious relationship with the divine. Guy Finley writes, we don't have to look very far to run into deep dissension, a, quote, fault line, close quotes, that runs through and between increasingly desperate religious ideologies, so that we invariably find the world itself divided into more and more factions, and where, accordingly, each and every one promises freedom to anyone who will accede to their authority by walking the path they profess to be the one and true path. In some ways, it boggles the mind that for all of the confusion and fear found in the midst of this conflict, one never asks oneself, how is it possible that the, quote, love, close quotes, that these groups profess to be their exclusive domain, how could that lead to such dissension, let alone the violence that follows it? The purpose of this book is to help the reader awaken to and begin to dismiss the unconscious, quote, powers and principalities, close quotes, that currently govern his or her mind and heart, so that in the light of this new and higher perception, they might realize there is only one journey, even though there may be many paths that lead to the celestial or the indwelling summit. St. John of the Cross addresses this problem as well as offering a welcome insight into it with a hidden solution. Quote, "In the deepest solitude, I found the narrow way, a secret giving such release that I was stunned and stammering, rising above all silence." That's St. John of the Cross. He lived from 1542 to 1591. Guy Finley writes, in his words, St. John reveals something universal about the one journey that awaits all who would walk the, quote, narrow path, close quotes. And each of us must make these discoveries for ourselves if we're to be guided by the light that shows the road ahead. But let's be clear, he says, as apparently difficult as this inward and upward journey to which we are called, it is by no means intended to be at odds with what we might call our everyday life. Our everyday life where, more often than not, because of how busy we may be just dealing with daily concerns, it may seem to us that we haven't the time we need to succeed with, let alone even start, this inner work. However, this is simply not true. We start right where we are, with whatever time we have to take our first step. So what is it to be? First, give your love to something. Do something with your love. Find something that you love, and then set out to make it your own. Never mind if you don't have any one love for any one thing in this life. Forget the whole idea of love for the moment and ask yourself, to what am I drawn? What is it that interests me? Whatever impressions you may feel from this sincere inquiry, these are the invisible magnetic impulses of a secret heart, capital H heart. A pulse of love, capital L love, that's been buried in you beneath layers, perhaps lifetimes of misdirection. That is what you must take the next few instructions to the heart. Never mind if you're attracted to something, but you feel unable to start because you're afraid of failing in your quest. Be assured of this, whatever it may be that you are drawn to know, whether it is to learn a new skill, grow a flower garden, develop an artistic skill, whatever it is, helping others, design clothes or cars, or set out to a deeper interior life, whatever it is, I tell you, the only thing that matters is that you just start. You can't know this yet, but it is capital L love that calls you to her side for whatever is your eventual choosing. And it is capital L love within you that feels this drawing. So do you know what this means? Just consider it. Love will not, cannot fail herself. It's more likely that the sun would fall from the sky than for love not to begin to shine through your nascent efforts. Your first reward will be to feel the warmth of knowing that you are nearing the beginning of a whole new life. Forget what others may think of you for your new aim to do your heart's desire. Disregard those whose reality is a rut. Misery wants company. Choose to do love's bidding instead. Persist with your working wish, and love, capital L love, will grant you the company of herself. And as you're gradually drawn nearer to her side, you will know that nothing anyone thinks towards you could possibly add 1 cubit to your stature. Brush aside any concerns you have for parentheses, for whatever the reasons, close parentheses, concerns you might have about being unable to be big or make a big beginning or jump ahead. Just start where you are and with what you have, even if this means taking a step so small that not one person on earth notices you've just left one world and entered another. Any beginning that you will make for the sake of answering the call of your heart is the same as a beginning whose happy ending already resides right within that same initial action. So this is how we talk about a journey without distance to a destination you never left. Don't be the least concerned if you can't seem to find the time or the energy to get going because of life's seemingly endless duties to families or friends. Simply drop these punishing and false ideas and listen instead to this promise that capital L love makes to anyone willing to draw near enough to hear her whisper, and hear her whisper her secret. Quote, "Do what you must to make time, and you will see that the energy you need to succeed will be given to you." Love lends her force to the entire universe, so you don't think that if you were... So imagine the silliness of you thinking that if you were to ask rightly for a bit, that she might not answer your need. Of course she will. Of course she will. All you need to do is make some time. Give some moments to your intended journey. Even if all you can muster to get started with is 2 minutes a day. Just place your attention on what you want to love, and it will love you back by giving you a bit of itself. This is Guy Finley. Another way he says it is, the system that you're in, the way the world is set up, is that whatever you put your attention on will teach you about itself. So Guy Finley wraps up this segment by saying, persist with this new work until you see, which you will if only you will stay the course, until you see that the love you thought you had chosen was really love choosing you. And when at last you realize that it has always been this way, then for you it will always be so until the end of time. Love that you think you're chasing or trying to acquire or connect with, that experience you have of a desire or an interest or a longing, as Suzanne Roberts talks about, that longing isn't something you initiated. It was placed in you by the Creator, by life itself, by this energy flow, by God, by light, by love, by Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. You don't get credit for the fact that you have a longing to know the Creator, or you have a longing to know your source, or you have a longing to understand the energy flow that animates your life. You don't get credit for that because that's part of what was implanted in you at the moment of your inception or creation, or at the moment of your decision to pretend to be separate, or your decision to create the illusion of separation or the dream of separation. In that instant, longing was placed in you as a part of the cycle of life or energy flow. Just like we've got a positive and a negative and a neutral ground in our energy systems and our batteries, we've got the longing to return, we've got the extension of the loving energy, and then the longing to return, and the giving and receiving as a flow. And if you will just at least recognize the negative self-talk in your mind as in error, and gently shift the focus of your attention over to the longing to connect with something higher or to feel the deep safety that comes from this recognition of our oneness with all of creation. Just moments dedicated to that in a day will initiate a process that will take you where you desire to be and can't fail. Can't fail. It won't happen on your time schedule. It probably won't look like what your conscious logical mind tells you it should look like. And yet, I had said to somebody earlier, I sent something to someone. And just now I think at the end of that message, I saw myself type for the first time. So take comfort in knowing that, number one, quote, this too shall pass. And that as always, quote, things that don't go the way I think they should always work out better than I think they could. Things that don't go the way I think they should always work out better than I think they could. If I can remember this, if I can bring myself back to these observations on a regular basis, the creative energies, the source energy, the vital energy of life will draw me back into it, will help me see the false belief in my fragmentation and in my woundedness. It will perform that process that some call transmutation of energy. It changes it from one form to another. And the good news is, I don't have to do it all. Right? Like the Guy Finley story of the person that just kept trying to please the mountain or the deity that runs the mountain and try to get the bubbling spring to come forth so he or she could drink from the fount of wisdom or whatever. And they go through all the machinations of building a monument and building a citadel and praying and preaching to other people about, the energy of the mountain and the God of the mountain. And eventually, with no success, finally tears the whole citadel down and tears apart the monuments and collapses in exhaustion with the words, I don't know what you want. Giving up in this way, releasing the striving at the intellectual level, is a necessary prerequisite for the connection, for the experience of the connection that we've always had and not been aware of. Guy Finley says, it's necessary for every effort you make to know God to fail miserably. It's essential that every effort you make to connect with God, to know God, etc., that it fails miserably so that God herself can lift you up, can inform you, can enlighten you, relieve your burden, all these different ways to talk about it. So here's hoping that something about this hour is a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter than the usual stuff most people are pouring into their heads these days, and that I should mention, I suppose, that today's a Thursday, so there will be a support group tonight from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time. All the information you would need to join us or forward to somebody else that might benefit from it is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. And we'd love to have you join us. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We are love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. I just noticed there's some comments here I should read. Can we name the book again? Yes. It's Deeper Than That by
Sorry, that wasn't the
Suzanne.
one. I've got that one. It was the other one. Power. There was Positive Intelligence by a fella, and then there was another one that.
Yes, Positive Intelligence.
Yeah.
Right, is by Shirzad, Shirzad, Shirzad
Okay.
Chamine, Chamine.